What a crazy experience I've been having. Before I get into the topic of today's video, I just want to say my brain is quite scrambled right now because for the past 3 days I have been dizzy, my head has been hurting, and also there's been this feeling of heat that's been like protruding from my entire skull. It's very odd, but it has been that way ever since I hit my head on the wall. You guys know how I don't really have a headboard nor what's that thing that the beds sit on? A frame? I don't know what they're called, but um, needless to say, my bed does sit on the floor, and I hit the back of my head directly on the wall quite hard as I was trying to lay down on my pillow, which was not sufficiently raised to accommodate my head. And it was the second time this happened. It had occurred as well the previous day, and needless to say, the second time was harder than the first, and I had not fully recovered from the first, and now I am just feeling so strange. Um, but hopefully it gets resolved soon. I thought about going to the hospital, but then I was like, no, there's going to be, you know, I don't want to deal with co-pays and all that. And I had a much more significant concussion, like on concrete, um, about 2 years ago. Yeah, literally 2 years ago now, and I was fine. Of course, it was on a different part of my head. It wasn't, on the back like this. It was on the top. I have no idea if that makes any difference, but um, you know, I've been going through it as a result of that. But today I want to talk about um, the actual topic, which is backup plans as a NEET. It's a prescient subject. It's one that's quite important that I feel like, um, a lot of pretty much everybody who isn't NEET long term have had to think about at some point. It was it was a significant producer of anxiety for me in the past because when I was growing up, I knew that I didn't ever want to work, and I also there was another layer to it. I also believed that it was impossible. Like I had such a low opinion of myself insofar as work is concerned that I thought it wasn't even possible for me to hold down a minimum wage job. Of course, I would subsequently find out that no, I can do that. It just makes me completely miserable. Um, and I had all these beliefs about my intellectual capacity. I thought that there were a lot of basic things I couldn't do, which later I would find out I could do them and a lot more. Um, and so, as a result of being afraid of the future, both because I figured that I wouldn't want to have a consistent job, and I also believed that I just literally couldn't, it preoccupied me quite a bit to consider the prospect of me being out there on my own with no resources and no money. Of course, later on, I would come to discover a range of neurological and psychological issues that I had, which allowed me to get approved for disability, which was caused a significant reduction of anxiety for me. Um, in fact, when I just found out that that was a thing that I could do, I felt very relieved because from all the evidence that I had seen, it was something that I would qualify for at least until I got better. And needless to say, I'm still autistic and still face a number of problems in the work environment. My main disabling factor appears to be sleep issues because when I have a job, even when I'm being pumped full of damaging medications for sleep, I can't seem to sleep. So what happens is I go to work every single day because I have to, and I go with 1 day without sleep, 2 days without sleep, 3, then 4, and then I start hallucinating. This has happened at every single job that I've ever had. Um, and they're they've had trouble figuring out why exactly this happens with me, because I've done all the things you're supposed to do. 100% pitch black room, making sure that I'm not eating too close to bedtime, making sure that there's no phone usage, no computer usage 2 hours before bedtime, making sure that my diet is exactly right in order to better facilitate healthy sleep, making sure that I'm very physically active, which was easy at all the jobs I've previously held because they were very physically active jobs. And putting all these things together did not lead to me having better sleep. I had worse sleep when I had a job than at any time when I did not have one. And they just couldn't figure it out. It's like, okay, you're not anxious when you're trying to go to sleep. You don't have anything you're worrying about. You're doing all these calming techniques. You're doing literally everything by the book that we're telling you to do. And also, even when you're given medicine, you can't seem to sleep. There's just like this mental block that seems to happen to you. And I believe it's also related to the fact that I struggle to sleep on the same schedule. I sleep at almost a completely different time every night. Maybe there's a couple days where I'm sleeping at the same time, and what would happen in the past, regrettably, it's somewhat embarrassing for me to say, but what would happen in the past is I'd come onto these videos and I'd be like, my sleep schedule is fixed, hallelujah, I'm doing so much better now. I'd come on and say things like that. And of course, it was all for naught. That is not how the world actually works. I'd go back to having the same problem. I, for a moment, started to think in, what's the word I'm looking for? Superstitious, in a somewhat superstitious way, because I started to think, well, okay, perhaps I'm jinxing it by talking on video. And so I'd go without talking about it, and then of course the same thing would happen again. My sleep schedule would fall back a couple hours. I wouldn't be able to get it back where it used to be. Then it'd fall back some more, then it'd fall back some more. My sleep schedule is constantly in flux, particularly if I'm working, but really during any time, I'm always being pushed back, a certain number of hours until I've just cycled every possible sleep cycle. But I've become increasingly aware of these factors that make it difficult for me to work. These things that psychiatrists have looked into pretty extensively for me, and kind of just shrugged it off at the end of the day, like, yeah, this guy's pretty screwed up, I guess. And after attempting to be on dozens of different medications, that was the the ultimate answer I've got from all these professionals. It's just kind of like, I don't know, man, this one's pretty screwed up. And after I got on disability when I was 17, I stopped being as worried about these sorts of things. And I stopped being as worried about these sorts of things because I knew that there was that safety net for me that would always be there. And they've taken me off of it a couple times, asking for more evidence of my issues, more documents, and I've had to go and give them the documents and go get evaluated again, and then I come back and I'm okay. But ultimately, I should probably be careful about this wound here. But ultimately, it's been what it is. God, my head is hurting so much. It's so difficult to make this video. My head hurts like a motherfucker right now. Like in here, even though this isn't where it got hit, and definitely back here where it did get hit, it's just like this. Like maybe my brain is like bleeding from the inside and I don't even know. That would be fun. That would be very strange, but I have a feeling that that is not what's happening. I don't think I would be as cogent as I am right now if I had that problem. I mean, maybe I would be. I used to drink like massive amounts, like huge amounts, and then I would just get into these in-depth discussions with people about philosophy and ethics. So maybe the true extent of my brain injury is being masked uh, with sheer willpower right now. I'm somewhat exaggerating in making that statement, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to put time codes in this video because I keep going off topic, but I think at the end of the day, the fact that I had a safety net, that I have a safety net, um, prevents me from experiencing many of the anxieties of that other people have to go through. But I do remember times when I did not have such a safety net, and I remember how I dealt with the anxiety. And I remember the plans, the backup plans that I developed for if my parents were to die, or if for whatever reason we all stopped having a place to live. Now, back in 2022, when this subject was particularly relevant for me, and when, I had failed out of my first job pretty hardcore, I was thinking about this stuff a lot. In like the summer of that year and the fall, I and really, really a lot of 2023, I was doing this too. I was just reading these books about mountain men, and these books that the YouTuber Forrest Onan would recommend about like how to build shacks in the middle of the woods, or how to survive in the wilderness. And I mean, I would read stuff that wasn't so, I don't know, wasn't so woods pilled, I guess you could say, wasn't so survival pilled, but still had that kind of edge, like, something like John Muir's book, what is it called? Stories of My Boyhood and Youth. Not, a full on, you know, it's not full on outdoor pilled, but it's got, the elements there. Uh, and I there was this one book called what is it, Shelter Shacks and Shanties, I believe is the name, from I think the 1920s, or it might have been even the late 1800s. I was really digging into the weeds with some of these books. Like, I kept buying these like autobiographies and biographies of mountain men from the 1800s, and I was just reading them like crazy. I was smoking those black American spirits and drinking a Monster, and I was just fucking reading through these books like crazy. And I was reading through all this philosophy stuff too. Like, I was reading all the stuff Ted Kaczynski wrote, and John Zerzan, and fucking like all the anarcho-primitivist guys. And I was even reading like the people they were influenced by. I was reading Jacques Ellul and all these people. And I was just reading like crazy, right? And I basically developed this plan to, like, if everything fell apart for me, I would just go live in the woods. I said, okay, I'm going to develop these survival skills to get my own food and whatnot and build my own place, and I'm just going to stay in the woods. And I'm not going to, have to worry about the urban violence or the challenges that come with being homeless around other homeless people, of which there are many. Nor would I have to worry about, not really having a proper roof over my head. Because if you're out deep in the sticks, you don't have to be in a tent. You can have a relatively nice, little place you build yourself. And so that was my mindset. Um, and I still have that plan in the back of my head for if everything were to fall through. God damn, my head is hurting so much. That's what I would do. I would I would go into the woods like that, and um, no, it's something that provides a lot of comfort for me, knowing that okay, I do have the ability to do this. It wouldn't be the most comfortable option, that's true. Maybe I should take more Tylenol. When is the last time? When is the last time I took Tylenol? This is actually terrible. I'm like going through the motions with this illness to you live on video. Okay, you can take it every 6 hours. Where's my water? I gotta get water after I record this, I guess. It's hurting so much. But yeah, basically having this idea in the back of my head is helpful for me. I I find it comforting to think, okay, yeah, I can literally just go in a woods and it's fine. I'm gonna be okay. Um, but I haven't really, like, this is the other thing too, is like at the very end of things, like, okay, if that doesn't work out for whatever reason, I could literally just get, some sort of job, right? And then live with multiple other people and then be miserable, right? Which isn't, really a great idea. And so there comes, some of the other ideas I've developed as well. Like, for example, one of the things I've thought of doing is 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 doing that really crazy move, which is getting the Dutch American friendship visa by basically putting, I think it's 4,000 euros in the bank account of a Dutch company, um, and then saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna review products related to this company or whatever on my YouTube channel. Boom, they give you the visa, right, for a year. And then I could just become a wandering freeder, doing odd jobs for people, of course not legally, and then sleeping, outside or in the woods, um, and I wouldn't have to worry about it too much because the wildlife in that part of the world is a joke. They're not really dangerous. I guess boars are dangerous depending on the country you're in, but as far as I know, they don't bother people all that much. Um, and I mean, also, couldn't you just, like, I don't know, construct a spear or something and then kill them? Probably not. Those things are quite powerful, but it would be funny if that's how it worked. Um, I don't know, but that's the other thing I've thought about is basically just becoming this wandering freeder, essentially living illegally, um, and it wouldn't be nearly as dangerous as being homeless in the U.S. in an urban environment, which is literal hell. I know from my own experience, and yeah, I don't know. I I I think all of my plans end up kind of being these daring sort of big things that people might say, well, okay, how would you even get to the woods? How would you get to your desired destination? Like, say I lost literally everything in the US. How would you get to your desired destination? Just literally hop on the train. Like, you go to the train yard and you see that there are freight trains going in a certain direction. You listen to the radio channels, ask people who like to hang around those parts, and you literally just get on, and you can go exactly where you want to go. Um, And, that was another interest that I used to have. The whole subject of train hopping, which I have to be careful talking about on YouTube because, they don't like those topics on here. But, um, yeah, essentially, I found myself, considering a lot of these more drastic measures, I guess, in order to continue being a NEET because ultimately I don't want to compromise on this. I also don't think I can. Um, it's like, are you really living if, okay, you have a job, but you're, you know, going 3, 4 days without sleep, and you every other night you're going 3 hours of sleep. It just seems like such a miserable life. Um, and then working for what? Working enough to get just enough food to get by. Working, just to be able to have a roof over your head. I'd rather fucking sleep outside and then get enough sleep than have to go through that shit. You know. So, I I I don't think it's negotiable for me. Even if I could get enough sleep and have a job, I wouldn't want to do it because I would feel that my time would be so much better spent somewhere else. I'd want to dedicate my time to learning more languages. I would want to get dedicate my time to reading more and to doing these things that are meaningful for me. Your time on earth is finite. Are you really going to spend most of your living waking hours of the day at work and then all the rest of your hours recovering from having been at work? I don't want to spend my life like that. It's awful, you know? And so no matter what happens to me, no matter, what becomes of my life, there are these more drastic measures that I'll ultimately take, to continue living the way that I want to not have to be playing by other people's rules. And at the end of the day, those are my backup plans. Um, I actually forgot something I wanted to do at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to do it here at the end because editing videos on this laptop takes forever. I really don't want to insert a clip into the beginning of this one. So I'm going to shout out a couple channels here. In order to get one of their names exactly right, I literally have to look at my own comments section because I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name without looking directly at it in this moment. Actually, I'm still looking at the name and I don't know how to say it. So the first channel that I want to shout out here, it's a pretty small channel. They have about 24 subscribers. Oh, 26 now. Good job. They're a small NEET channel from, I believe, Australia. That's their accent sounds Australian. Called Sinceru. They made one video called 10 Lessons from Being a NEET Hikikomori, which was quite good. And they made another video, which I'm going to need if this issue with my brain gets any worse, called Solving Brain Rot. A topic which is quite relevant for NEETs, given how often NEETs talk about brain fog and, feeling unengaged and getting stupider over time. It's not a condition that's inherent to being a NEET. It's just due to the fact that, for whatever reason, a lot of the people who post about being NEETs online don't do anything with their time. It's the craziest thing ever to me because, the reason I'm a NEET is because I want to do stuff with my time. If I didn't want to do stuff with my time, I would literally just get a job. If I was wasting all my time wasting away, why would I not just have a job where you can do exactly that but get money for doing it? These people, I have no idea, to be honest. A lot of these people in the community are some of the most confusing beings that I've ever encountered. But this YouTube channel, Sinceru, has the exact right idea when it comes to this question, because they have figured out exactly how to avoid brain rot and compiled all of the ways in which you can avoid brain rot, and provided ample evidence for how each of these methods works. So of how each of these methods work, and so very valuable channel. He only has 3 videos out, but the ones that he has made are very good. And so I highly recommend that you check his channel out. The next channel I want to talk about is one I've talked about before, which is NEET. If you've heard me talk about his channel, you know who he is. He makes very comfy vlogs, highly personable videos, very down-to-earth gentleman. Highly recommend his channel. The next channel that I want to talk about is one called Dripping Ooze, who appears to be fairly new to this space, and he makes videos about his experience as a NEET, as well as his experiences in general. He talks a lot about toys as well. It seems like he's a big toy collector. I appreciate the down-to-earth nature of his videos and the fact that he is honest about who he is, about his passions. The next channel I want to talk about is My Slice of Life. She appears to be a quite new channel. She only has 2 videos out, but the videos that she has made are very comfy and show really no signs of the fact that they're from a new channel. It feels like she's been doing this for quite a while and already has quite an established presence before the microphone. And so if you want a channel that is pleasant to listen to, a channel that engages with the subjects of NEETdom in a thoughtful way, and from the perspective of someone who's lived through it, someone who wants to explore their personal experiences in the broader context of this society, then I highly recommend you check out her videos. They have this comfy sort of gameplay and commentary feeling to them, which, you know, is reminiscent of, I don't know, 2015 YouTube, that sort of thing. And so if that is a kind of content that you've been longing for and you'd like to see it from someone personable, who once again is just getting their footing on the platform, then you ought to check out My Slice of Life. Now, is there anyone else I'd like to bring up? I could have sworn there was another channel that I recently found that I could add here, although I can't find them right at this moment, so if I remember who they were, I suppose I'll have to link them in the next video. But that is about everything for today. What are your backup plans for being a NEET? I wonder, are they as crazy and out there as mine? Do they involve daring stunts or questionable construction in a woods? Let me know. And I'll see you all next time, whenever that is. It'll probably be a while until I make another video. I want to get to exactly 29 minutes because I think it would be funny.